Klarus have sent one of their new waterproof power banks in for a test. This is the K5 and it's got a couple of interesting features on this one. The most obvious one is it's rated for IP68, which means it's water submersible. I like to keep these videos pretty short, so we'll just unbox it and then have a look at a few tests later on. And the package with this is about as simple as you get, just a single cable, a Type A to Type C. Typical with these premium power banks, it's carbon fibre on the outside and they've gone with a sort of smooth effect on the edges. They're not hard at all, they're rounded off. I put the information up on screen in terms of the dimension and weight, and I'll compare it to a couple of the other power banks that I have. Inputs and outputs in terms of the voltage and amps are up on the screen. This auto starts and stops as most power banks do, but you can check the capacity just by pressing the button. It's nice to have a percentage display, give a bit more accuracy compared to the normal LEDs. If you long press that power switch, you'll get into the low charging mode, and that is rated to 20 milliamps. That's quite useful for charging things like smartwatches or Bluetooth headphones, the battery boxes as well. As the Type C is an output as well as an input, you've got two potential ports that you can use. But it is worth noting you'll only get quick charge if you're using a single port. The minute you plug another one in, you're going to drop down to just over 3 amps combined. I measured it at around about 3.19 amps. Another neat feature is that green lightning bolt. That tells you when you're using quick charge. In other words, if it's more than 5 volts, and that works for charging and discharging. The charge and discharge capacity check came in pretty much on spec, just under 10,100 for the charge capacity, and I got almost 6,400 on the discharge. Do note I'm using a lower discharge speed, so if you're using a faster one, you'll get a bit lower in terms of the actual capacity. And here's a comparison with two of the other power banks that I've done videos on. The NC10000, that's a different type of power bank that's using the 21700 batteries. And you'd only have a single Type C port with that, which is the main drawback. It does have a built-in torch though. Compared to the NB10000, did a video on that a few months ago. Klarus is definitely quite a bit shorter, but it is a bit thicker and a bit wider. I don't think the size difference between these two makes that much difference. They're fairly similar in terms of the overall footprint. I did check the weight on some scales and they came in around about 157 grams on the Klarus. NB10000, couple of grams lighter. And as expected, the NC10000 with those 21700 batteries, that came in the heaviest of all of them. All of these power banks have a degree of water resistance and quite a high degree, IPX5 for the night core, but the Klarus is IP68 rated. And what that means is, if I have a look at the scale here, once you get to 7, you can actually submerge in water. And I did that just to test it. What I did was just drop the power bank into a bucket a couple of times, and I left it in there for around about 10 minutes just to see if there was any problems. Also gave me a chance to try out the high frames per second rate on the camera, which I haven't used before. You want to give it a quick shake to dislodge some of that water. You can still see the display outside in daylight, although it's not as clear. Had no problems at all charging a phone with this after I put it in that water. As I've mentioned before, with these power banks, they are quite useful and potentially handy if you're going to be getting them wet. But do bear in mind you are paying a premium for the water resistance and the higher build quality. That wraps it up for me on this one. I do hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.